Several years ago, my big goal, and it had been my goal for a number of years, was to write a book. And I'd always thought of myself as a writer. I had written blogs, I had written articles, I had written in journals, but I had never undertaken something as ambitious as a book. And when I first started thinking about, wow, that's a lot of words, it's a lot of pages, it felt very big and overwhelming. But again, it was something that year over year, I kept saying to myself, maybe this will be the year I can write that book, or I'd put it down as a goal. And I had not done it. So I started to think about what's getting in the way. And the first thing that was getting in the way is I had to choose a topic. Fortunately for me, over time, as I was speaking, I realized that something I was passionate about was the idea of self-promotion. And we've talked about that in here, telling your story, how you tell your story so that you can be more successful in your career path. So the topic ultimately found me. But then I realized, writing a book takes a lot of time. It's not something you can just say, yeah, this weekend I'm going to write that book that I've been thinking about. So I needed to set aside the time. Like all of you, I had a busy schedule at the time, and still I travel a lot for work. I had clients to see, I had deadlines to meet, I had a life outside of work, a house, a family, hobbies, community, all those things, friends. So I really wondered how I was going to find the extra time, and that was how I had it framed in my mind, the extra time to write this book. And what I realized is that if I didn't make that time, notice that I just switched from finding the time to making the time, that I would never achieve the goal that I had for myself. I had to put in the time, those small efforts, those small bits of time regularly if I was going to achieve what I wanted to achieve. If I was going to have enough pages and enough thoughts on paper to make an actual book. So I started to do all the things that I know to do as a coach. I set aside time on my calendar that was writing time, and I tried to hold it as if it were an important client meeting or another commitment. You know how when you have a commitment with somebody else, it's pretty easy to keep it because you don't want to let them down or you don't want to not show up for them? But when we have a commitment to ourselves, it's sort of like, yeah, I could do that tomorrow. I could do that next week. Let me just take that little block in my Outlook calendar and I'll drag it to another day. I'll get to it. And then we don't. And over again, we move it. So I had to make a commitment to myself that that time needed to be as important as other time. So I created this accountability with a friend of mine where sometimes during off hours we would get together at a conference room or a coffee shop, and we agreed that during that time we couldn't just catch up on work stuff, which was really tempting. Like, oh, I'll just catch up on the 500 emails that are in my inbox because I have this 2-hour block of time. We couldn't do that. We couldn't be distracted. We had to put in time on a big project, and my big project was writing this book. So I was able to put in the time because I made the time.